Tamara, welcome to A House for Arts. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You wear so many different hats in addition to the sleek black jacket that you wear when you're conducting musical orchestra. Let's first start with your new role at RPI.
Yeah, so I became a professor. I joke with my husband to now call me Dr. Maestra Professor
Because you
Dworetz.
just finished your PhD, right?
Yeah, my DMA. I actually got the job before I finished, so I was finishing my last semester of my DMA. The first semester I was being a professor. But at RPI, I conduct their orchestra and the choir, as well as taught a class in the fundamentals of music for students who don't have any experience. And this semester I'm coaching and leading a chamber music class.
So how did this all begin for you? Did you grow up listening to orchestral music? Where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, definitely my mom filled our house with classical music and made it a value. I mean, we, instead of like a living room, we had a music room in our house. So she kind of forced me to start piano lessons in first grade, which I'm glad she did. And then she kind of manipulated me to pick the trumpet because
feeling a lot of manipulation, isn't that what parents are for, though? They get you to do the things that you
manipulation, yeah.
Yeah.
I do thank her for it. She was one of the first women in the Michigan marching band, and so, but she was a saxophonist, which you can't really hear, and they're kind of like in the back because the sound doesn't travel like a brass instrument. So
or drums or something.
Or the drums,
like that.
yeah. So I think she picked the trumpet for me because she knew it gets the melody, and also I was a tomboy, and it's getting better, but at the time it was certainly a male-dominated instrument. So I think it was a good choice. It fit my personality a lot, so.
When I've watched video clips of you conducting orchestral music especially for a live audience and for recordings, and you are so embodied. I mean, every single inch of your body just expresses every nuance and every tone and every feeling that's coming through in the music. And I'm just curious, Tamara, why are gestures and the movement of the body so important when you're conducting orchestral music for a live audience?
Well, it's so important because, well, first of all, the way that it's the physical connecting with the emotional is, I think, what drew me to conducting in the first place. And I really love the idea of connecting those two things. As a conductor, there's different lines, different parts happening at the same time. You have a score and there's the melody, and then you have a harmony, and you have maybe a rhythmic part and maybe another part. And those are all kind of pieces of the puzzle, and each musician, they only really see their part of the puzzle. And the conductor's job is to kind of physically show how those all fit together.
So you're taking different threads in a sort of warp and weft, right? If you had like a loom, and you're weaving them together, you're helping weaving them together. You've got all the elements, and then you put them together into like a beautiful tapestry.
Sure, exactly. And I think, the musicians, they could all play their parts and they would all go together without a conductor needing to be there. But the role of the conductor is to really provide a vision and a unification. It's almost kind of like a coach of like a football team. The coach isn't necessarily like a better quarterback or linebacker than the players themselves, but they can see the whole picture and how things fit together in a way that the perspective of the individual players can't. So that's kind of, I do see it as kind of a coaching role as well.
So this is really interesting. Speaking of that type of coaching role, Tamara, I know I've heard you in an interview with Meta Artists International talk about the psychology of the orchestra, which I thought was so intriguing. Can you explain what the psychology of the orchestra is and how you see that unfold in your own work as a conductor?
Yeah, so in my training as a conductor, it's all about the music. And I've seen these conductors who are just able to, in addition to being great musicians and great conductors, though, they are able to get the best out of the people sitting in front of them. And on the other hand, I've seen great musicians who, with just the orchestra, they don't look like they want to be there. But we're never, in the training of conductors, we're never really taught the psychology and the leadership part. And so I really wanted to look into that. I'm always interested in, how can we work together as a team, and how can I get the best out of everybody, and I think that's a lot of the job of the conductor. So when you're in a very vulnerable position when you're holding a musical instrument in your hand.
As a musician.
As a musician, and you're performing. And a lot of the culture around classical music is perfection and, getting it right. And then everybody's judging and listening to each other.
Mm-hmm. And don't people also practice kind of on their own a lot of the times, and then they come together in more rare moments? So there's always this focus on like individual perfection.
Exactly. So, and that can create a lot of tension when people are aiming for perfection and they're afraid of what the conductor might say to them or what the flutist thinks of how they just played that crescendo or something. So I think part of the role of the conductor is to make everybody feel at ease so that they can be free to perform their best. And also,
what's one way that you actually help musicians feel at ease especially when they're all together? Yeah,
so I think helping them feel seen. And valued. So for instance, I try to look in the back of the sections. That is something I was actually trained to do, like the back of the violin section. I think eye contact goes a long way because it's like, hey, I see you and I'm listening to you. Mm-hmm. And I also think, as a conductor, I could be just giving information all the time, but that's just a one-way relationship. It's gotta be, you have to be listening and open. It's a back and forth.
Right, it's like there's a symbiosis between the conductor and the musicians,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And then, kind of going to your role and the mark that you're making in the larger world of orchestral conducting and musical orchestra, you're one of 14 international candidates that's been chosen as part of the International Maestra Conducting Competition for Women Maestros. So tell us about the importance of this competition and why it's specifically so important for women conductors today.
Yeah, so it has gotten a lot better. There are more women conductors than ever before.
Right, because it's a traditionally very male-dominated field.
Because it's a very traditionally male-dominated profession. I mean, you can find videos on YouTube of like a completely male orchestra. Not to mention the conductor, the one leading them. So, but we're still very, very behind. Marin Alsop was, famous as breaking the glass ceiling for being a first conductor of a major U.S. orchestra. Now we have Natalie Stutzman with the Atlanta Symphony, but that's kind of it for major orchestras. And there are women conductors, and it is getting better. But this competition provides the opportunity. It's not just an opportunity for women to conduct. It's an opportunity to celebrate being a woman conductor. You're not just the one woman there, like trying to fit into this world and how do I fit in, but you're there and everybody's women and of course there's different version of what it means to be a woman.
Right. But you're all there to kind of witness each other, support each other, because you all know going in, wow, I'm going into something that this is kind of unusual for someone like me to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's versus another competition that is not based on being all women. I think that adds another dynamic to it, that we are all it's already a win just to be there, enjoying and as you said, witnessing each other.
Yeah. So what are it sounds like you've already named one of the changes you'd like to see in the world of musical orchestra, but what's another big change that you'd like to see, and is there anything that you might be doing to work towards that big change?
Yeah, the Albany Symphony actually does, I think, a great job of this, but I think reaching out into the community, a lot of times orchestras are expecting the community to come to them, but I think the orchestras need to be serving their community, serving the city, and that includes everybody in it. It's almost like the baseball team of the city. Its job is to serve, and I think it can be a source of huge pride for the city. And so something I'm doing, I've taught, I've done my role in small ways, like teaching. I taught public school and orchestra and band and RPI. I even consider that. I also mentor some younger women conductors. But on the other hand, I really want to get to a podium that has more power to have more impact. So I'm working on myself still right now to be able to get to that position. And I really hope to kind of be a model, to be working with an orchestra that has that mindset to be reaching out into the community and, performing at lots of different venues and high schools and churches and
bringing the performance to people who may not traditionally have went and moved themselves over to
exactly
the orchestra or the traditional venue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not in
yeah.
a way of proselytizing, but in a way of enriching.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Tamara, this was such a fantastic conversation.
Thanks so much.
I feel like I have even more knowledge and appreciation of orchestral music. So thank you so much for being on A House for Arts.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.